live now. I think we are live now. We are live now. I got my mic working, and all we can do is pray for those that curl in the squat rack. So what that comment is related to is our T-shirt giveaway. Right away, we're going into Shane Gough. Shane, Gough 235. That was his comment. All I can do is pray for those that curl in the squat rack. So he wins. Shane, you're going to win this week's T-shirt giveaway, and all you have to do is comment on a YouTube video. Comment on the YouTube video. Make sure that all of your subscriptions are on there. What's up, Steve Wonderland? Make sure that you're, holding a squat. Should do one of these while holding a squat. So make sure that you're, all of your, you're subscribed to the channel and you have notifications on. Then now Shane Gough's got to email us, support@garagestrength.com. He'll say that he won the giveaway. Provide a screenshot of your YouTube studio and the same account that you used to enter the giveaway so that we can verify that you were the winner. That's how you get one of those sweet shirts. Okay, so each week we're going to be doing a giveaway. I'll show you one of the other shirts. You know, you've probably seen, I think you've seen the swole shirt I wore yesterday, which was the white swole shirt. This will be another giveaway shirt coming up. And these shirts are also available at garagestrength.com. So all of that merch is available at garagestrength.com. And we got some sweet gear coming out in the very, very near future as well. So we got some good questions today. The first question that I actually want to cover, I'm going to try and change what's on the screen. So Shane Gough, you got to claim that prize. We should be posting that too later. Shane Gough, 2, 3, 5. You are the winner. Let's post that on the Instagram story so everybody knows and they understand what they have to do. Now, let's get into that first question from Maria Robbins, 9635. Remember, guys, that how we're going to be setting up these public lives, how we set them up the last 3 weeks. If you have a really good question on one of our YouTube long-form videos, we're going to take those comments and we're going to take those top 3 questions for the week. We're going to answer them first. And then after we answer them, then we're diving into the YouTube comment section or TikTok or Instagram, but I can't see the Instagram comments, so sorry about that, Instagram. So this first comment, this is from Maria Robbins, 9635. Maria said, I want that swole shirt. Maria, sorry you did not win the swole shirt, but I'm still going to answer your question. Can you recommend some basic movements for kids at the high school level incorporating strength and conditioning that would benefit fencing? It's such an asymmetrical sport, and I'm having trouble finding non-equipment exercises that could be incorporated. I'm having trouble finding non-equipment exercises. So I think she wants exercises that would not be using equipment. Now, I don't know if you know this, Maria. Yo, what's up, Mifflin Football Better 24? But I actually did an entire shoot with Kat Holmes, I think she's been to 2 Olympics now. I actually even got to meet up with Kat Holmes where I saw her in Tokyo. So that was pretty freaking cool. And I got to spend some time with her in that video shoot, just discussing training, discussing how to hold those different positions, and focusing on hip extension and what you're doing with your calves and stuff like that. And so based off of those discussions, based off of what I know from strength and conditioning, based off of watching the actual sport of fencing, what I would look at, like if I wanted to just pick 3 simple exercises, I would do a curtsy step up, maybe holding a goblet position. I think that's the first one that's going to target your glutes and your quads very, very well. And that's where you're going to be in that crazy position a lot, really triggering that glute med. Okay, the next one that I would do would be like a skater squat. Okay, skater squat, you're not going to need any equipment, but it's very challenging, so you might need to hold on to something when you're building into that skater squat position. And then that third one would be a Cossack squat. The third one, a Cossack squat, you could do with a towel on the linoleum floor or a concrete floor or something like that, and really try and focus on good mobility to help lower those hips, get into that position that are going to be more advantageous to fencing. So those are those 3 exercises that I would recommend to help that asymmetry that you usually will see that's consistent with fencers. And what I would do in training them with those fencers would be setting up some type of big technical coordination movement, and then later after the technical coordination movement, that's when I would start to use those unilateral exercises. Okay, that next question. And I'm going to answer. There's going to be two big questions here. Galactic BTW 1281 asked for a question around a week layout for running backs. So if you're in the chat, or if you're on TikTok, or you're on Instagram Live, any of these live channels, right? I'm going to actually provide 2 days, and I'm even going to show you a day that we just did yesterday with Nick Singleton in training. But I'm going to show you 2 specific days on the screen on YouTube of a running back training. And this is something that I've actually been using with one of our guys in the NFL right now. One of his training routines from about 6 weeks ago. So you're actually going to see 2 days directed to Galactic BTW 1281's question, where he asked, please, can you do a week template for football players? I'm a running back. But before we get into that, I want to answer this question from Evan9536. Dane has Lyme disease. So I will say this, this is going to be a little bit off of strength and conditioning, but a little bit into the realm of owning the business, training, and just what Lyme disease did to me. And basically in 2013, I started to have a lot of bad headaches, really, really bad anxiety, like raging headaches where I felt like my head was getting crushed. I was getting these eye floaters all over the place. And ironically, my wife asked me last night, because I told her what I was going to be doing, talking about this. My wife had asked me, like, do you ever get these eye floaters anymore? And I was like, no, actually I don't. That's what's interesting. And I wanted to share just, I'm going to show this up on the screen on YouTube so you guys can see this here. Some of the drugs that I was on during my time on Lyme disease. So these are all of the drugs that I was taking when I decided to stop. So what happened is 2013, I get all this crazy feeling, headaches, horrible anxiety. And I actually have like a throwback Dane's platform where you can actually see me really go in depth on this. This is like way back 2013, 2014. And I'm even going to show you a picture of me when I was at my peak Lyme issue. So you can see TikTokers, Instagram Lives. You can see that picture there of me when I was at my peak. This is when Lincoln was about 2.5 to 3 years old. I don't know if you guys can see that up on the screen. Yeah, I think you can now. So that's me. 2013, 2014. Basically what ended up happening is for about 9 months, I went to a whole bunch of different doctors. And what's weird with Lyme disease is no one really knows what's going on. Sometimes you don't test positive. Sometimes you do test positive. At one point, they actually thought I had lupus. They also thought I had leukemia. I went in for blood work multiple different times within like that 9-month time frame, a year time frame. I would get chest x-rays. All this stuff was going on. My white blood cells were off the chart. So like usually you will test between like a 3 and a 9 on the results for your white blood cells. Mine were coming back at like 15 to 20. They couldn't figure out what was going on, and what was happening. Somebody just asked about that PA pick, so I'll talk about that later. Couldn't figure out what was happening. My energy was terrible. Felt like crap, and I had only taken this standard Lyme disease test, which shows like 3 bands of Lyme. And then they got me this test called the IGeneX test. And so I had been to about like 4 or 5 different doctors. When I tested, Joseph, I'll answer that question. Just hold on. Then when I finally took the IGeneX test, I tested positive for 9 different strains of Lyme disease. And basically it took me about 1.5 to 2 years. One doctor I went to for about a year straight. I would go to him every 2 weeks. I would get Rocephin shots. I would get magnesium shots. I was on azithromycin, which is in here, for 2 years. 2 years on azithromycin. I was on acyclovir, which is an antiviral. I was on low dose naltrexone. You can look all these drugs up. I was on low dose naltrexone for about a year. That's like a drug that they'll use for autoimmune. I was on what's on the screen here, Mepron, 3 different times, which is like an anti-protozoa, and I believe it's used. I think it's used with cancer patients, and it's used with AIDS patients as well. So I was on that 3 different times, and that would just ravage me. I was on doxycycline on and off. for about a year and a half. So I would go on doxycycline for 4 weeks and go off. But the whole time I was taking the whole time I would take azithromycin the whole way through for 2 years. So this is like that last round where about 2 years of doing this, I decided that I was going to try and stop and see how I felt. And so my blood work would come back. My testosterone was down at like 219. My estrogen was off the chart. My progesterone was super high. So Lyme disease tore me up. And then I got super fat also from the antibiotics and from just being fatigued all the time and not really being motivated to do anything. So that was another big factor. So I struggled with that. And I feel like now I haven't been tested for Lyme in about 3 years. And I feel a lot better. I feel healthier. I feel happier. And my headaches went away, fortunately. I don't wish this on anyone, and it's something I take really seriously. So I just want to share that because somebody did ask that question. Dane has Lyme disease. So if you have further questions on it, I like talking about it because I try to help people because a lot of people don't know what it's like, and they'll be like, it's not even that big of a deal. Now let's get into the actual next question. This is going to be the football one. Okay. So the football question is going to be based around, damn it, I did not want this one shared with the actual football lift. Like the actual, not the lift, but the actual numbers in there. I was hoping the second one would get shared. I don't even know if you guys can see this. Okay, so if you're on the screen, this will be like a day one. Okay, this is real simple. You can see how we lay it out. This is a guy that plays in the NFL currently. So the way we lay out that week, that template for football players would be day one would be a leg power day, but before we do a leg power day, we're going to do a speed day in the morning. Okay, so we hit that speed day in the morning, come back in the afternoon, and this would be for a professional football player, guys active in the NFL. Okay, leg power day after we do the speed stuff in the morning, and that's what we're focusing on: good speed work, good acceleration work, good cutting. And then we get into power cleans, full cleans, single leg squats, Chinese side bends, glute ham raises, trying to focus on weak areas, hip areas, the hip, trying to stabilize that hip. So this would be leg power day one, okay? So we can see that now. Remember, we're laying out a template for a full week. So we go leg power day one, upper body power day two, day three, that's where we get into that athlete day. Day four, we would get into an impulse day. We'd probably have a break in there at some point. And then we get into that hypertrophy day. And then sometimes I'll even throw in there like a buys and tries day if we've got a player that likes to just lift a little bit extra. So that's another big factor, is that we're trying to lay out the week based off the player. And then on top of that, they're going to go to the field at least 3 days a week. So we know that they're going to be doing field work 3 days a week. So then we have to establish when they're going to the field, when they're doing the sprint work. Okay, so what sprint work, speed work are they going to be doing, and then how does the lifting affect that? So if we do speed stuff on day one, then we lift in the afternoon. Then we do upper body stuff, and then on day three, we're going to do easy technical speed stuff where they might be like shorter bursts, more agility focus, more cutting, more speed work that's in like that 5 to 10 yard, because then they're never at full tilt where they could potentially lead to some hamstring issues. They're going to do athlete day in that afternoon. Then we're going to take about a day off. And then again, we're going to train an easy impulse day. And then on day 5 in the morning, that's when they're going to do that third field work. Okay, that third day of field work. So that's going to help quite a bit. And then I'm going to show you here. I'll show you, this would be what that upper body day would look like. Okay, so if we click on this, I'm going to lower this. And if you guys are on the YouTube live, you can see this actual split on YouTube live. If you're not on YouTube live, if you're on Instagram or TikTok, I'm still going to explain it to you. So now we get into that upper body day. Okay, big upper body lift. Usually what we'll do is some type of linebacker jerk, linebacker split jerk, a PA press, something where we want to focus on hip extension, hip flexion, really rapid, big drive, big neural drive, and then we would focus on that leading into a big focus. Russell, I'll try and talk to you about your TFL. Then we would take that after that big neural potentiation, go into a big press or a big incline press. Bench press or incline, and then some dumbbell work, some unique dumbbell work. We want to focus on shoulder stability, a lot of pulls. and then some explosive stuff at the end there to clean everything up on the back end of that upper body power day. So when we're laying out that week template for a football player, again, leg power day, upper body power day. Upper body power day right now is on the YouTube live screen, so you have access to that. I'm going to take it off. And you can sort of see how we lay that out. And then that athlete day. And also, I would just recommend, if you guys are in, if you guys are interested in how we train, the best thing that you could do, one, is watch some of our YouTube videos around football, but then also just go into, if you look at going into peak strength, this is in our template here. It's ironic because this is a workout that we used yesterday with Nick and Cameron Stewart. Nick's the starting running back at Penn State, a Big Ten Rookie of the Year last year. Cameron Stewart, D-end, outside linebacker at Rutgers. He was here yesterday. Brandon George was here, who's a starting linebacker at Pitt. And they're going to follow that workout that I just showed you. Or what they'll also do is we can just go into peak strength. And so when we go into peak strength, and I'll show you here, the easiest thing that you can do is you can say, all right, I'm an advanced athlete or I'm an intermediate athlete, and I am training specifically for, so we can go here. If you're on TikTok or Instagram, you can go here. You can click on, I want to train for football. Okay, so I click on football. Well, where am I going to train for football? Well, I want to train as a linebacker. So I'm going to click on linebacker. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to click build your program. Okay, so if you guys go to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store, you can download this. You can get your program built, and for 7 days of free training, you're going to get 5 free workouts, right there, just populated. Got my lower body strength day, which I just laid out for you on the screen so you can see that basic template. And then that's going to spit up what that workout's going to look like. So you can actually just get that at peakstrength.app. Now, we're going to go into covered. The Dane has Lyme disease. Shane Goff won the Swole Shirt Giveaway. Boom. Covered the fencing question. Covered the football training. Gave you and peak. Why stop? I don't get it. I'm reading a question from what did I do in college? I was a shot putter and I majored in religious studies. And then I'm going to get into some of the questions that we have inside of the chat and at YouTube Live. So somebody had asked about this PA tile thing. So this is actually from an artist who's actually from Eugene, Oregon. What's his name? Aaron Draplin. Aaron Draplin made that. And so I follow him, and he had posted that he loves Pennsylvania. And so, he had that for sale, and I bought it. That's where that comes from. It sort of just shows you each county and each region and what encompasses PA. So if you're on TikTok or Instagram, are smelling salts safe? Yes, they are. You can sort of see that. Now, let's get into this. Hey, Coach, I'm trying to develop more explosive power for our squat bench. Would you recommend heavyweight with low reps with controlled fast pace or lightweight high rep controlled fast pace? Both. Heath or Hash Steven. Both. It just depends on the day. If we're looking at a leg power day, I want to move heavyweight fast, okay? I also want to move heavyweight, and you might move it slow. And then I also want to move heavyweight controlled. Okay, so we want to look at heavyweight fast. We want to look at heavyweight slower because that's going to lead to some big time strength gains and neural coordination. But then also later in the week, we're going to focus on high levels of impulse, blast impulse, sustained impulse. If you picked up Garage Strength Program Design, you understand what that is. And based off of your sport, if you're trying to improve explosive power, you got to be strong, but you also have to be explosive. And that means moving heavyweight fast, moving lightweight fast, moving your body fast, moving your body through full range of motion, doing slow and controlled reps, doing everything rapid as possible. It's all just got to be laid out effectively. And that means using technical coordination movements, using absolute strength movements, using plyometric movements, using speed movements, using reflexive movements, using hypertrophy movements, using all of these different things in a cohesive plan. That's the big time goal. And that's what we do inside of Peak Strength. That's exactly why we laid out Peak Strength. So someone like Hash Steven could go in, download it, and pick that up. Jason, somebody's saying the audio is a bit low. I don't know if that's accurate on your end. Okay, so now we're going to get into Nightmare Monkey. I'm from Australia. Ruptured my Achilles 7 months ago. Any tips for recovery? I play running back. So that sucks, Nightmare Monkey. I have had athletes the realization period. Why not keep going and keep getting stronger? That's from Abe. Abe, so we do cycle back through. Once you hit that realization period, and this is where we're updating the app in the future in July, we're going to have a testing period, then you're going to go back and start that again to keep building. So to go back to the ruptured Achilles, one of the big things, I'm going to answer Kevin's question next. One of the big things with the ruptured Achilles is just making sure that your leg strength, you can come back strong, that you can come back with stability in that ankle joint. Make sure that you can come back. Make sure your upper body is staying strong, your trunk is staying strong. Improve that mobility as you slowly work back. Make sure you have a licensed professional who's going to help you heal up from that ruptured Achilles. You'll have to go through physio. You've got to have somebody who you can trust, and just take it slowly. Take it as slow as possible. You know, we had Rachel Fatherly come back from a ruptured Achilles, and she hit a PR in the shot. So you are capable of doing that. Kevin, with a great question. So Kevin is a YouTube channel member. If you want to become a YouTube channel member, you can sign up at our YouTube channel. Okay, so you can actually sign up for $10, and we do 4 YouTube lives private every single month. So every month, 4 YouTube lives that are extremely private, so you can ask any questions that you want about training. You can ask any questions you want about nutrition, recovery, all that stuff, and we answer. And there's about 20 people in there, and that's all we're focusing on is coaching questions, training questions, anything that's going to help you guys become better athletes, be better coaches as far as sports performance is concerned. So you can see that Kevin is a channel member, as is Steve Wonderland. So Kevin's question is, are utilization for drop sets strictly for hypertrophy? So he's asking if we use a drop set, okay? Let's say this would be a good example. And we use the 80-60 drop, okay? And we got a whole video on the 80-60 drop on YouTube. Dane, bring the mic a little closer. Got you. Okay, so if we have that 80-60 drop, right, that would be a hypertrophy-based drop set. So we're doing, you know, let's say sets of 5, sets of 5, sets of 5. Then we do 3 sets of 17. That's hypertrophy-based. If we're doing let's say drop sets on technical coordination. So let's say we do 5 singles on the minute, and then we rest for 2 minutes, and then we do 2 time triples. Those time triples are going to be focused on power output and explosiveness. Okay, so those drop sets are going to be a little bit more focused on how much power can you produce in a short period of time. Another way that we can do this is that if we have, let's say, 5, 4, 2, 2 back squats, okay? 5, a set of 5, a set of 4, a set of 2, a set of 2, and then we do 2 drop sets of 5, and we're focused on unbroken positions in that back squat. That's still going to be more about absolute strength and gaining just strength in general. So, Kevin, to answer your question, you've got to use drop sets based off of what your goals are or based off of where you are in periodization. Drop sets can be used for hypertrophy. Drop sets can be used for increasing explosiveness. Drop sets can be used for increasing absolute strength. I even get creative when we have our overall, if we're doing speed-based training. Okay, so if we're focusing on, let's say I'm doing velocity decrement training with a sled. I've got a 35-pound plate on the sled. I'm hammering that for 10 sets of 15-yard sprints. I might rest for, let's say, 5 minutes after I finish that, recover, and then I might do just 5 sets of body weight sprints. Okay, so you can get creative, and you can actually look at drop sets as a way to improve different qualities depending upon the period and depending upon yourself and the coaching issue or the issue that you might have. Okay, so that's how I would answer that. How would I structure a lower body day for soccer? So this is from Richard Stewart. So Richard, what I would do is focus on, let's say, power cleans or a power snatch, something like that. Power snatch for, let's say, 5 doubles. Okay, easy. Then I'm going to get into single leg squats with some type of side band walks. Okay, that would be an easy aspect. And then I might do something, I might finish that off with some like easy sled pushes, and some hip stability, knee stability. There's a lot of knee injuries in soccer, so we might focus on some simple knee stability work, and that's going to help you improve your performance as a soccer player. Now, getting into Redhead, does weighted calisthenics help or carry on to plyometrics? Keist is in the chat. All right, Keist, does weighted calisthenics help or carry on to plyometrics? I don't know what carry on would mean, but weighted calisthenics are great. Weighted calisthenics are fantastic, but then I probably wouldn't call them calisthenics. I would call them like, well, I guess maybe they would be called calisthenics. But yeah, they're absolutely phenomenal. And we use them. Absolutely use them. JB, best exercise. This Jordan Burroughs. Best exercises for wrestling. Best exercises and rep ranges for wrestling. Come on, JB. We just put out like the most comprehensive wrestling video that you could ever imagine on YouTube. It's like 20 minutes of wild, in-depth wrestling knowledge. And we actually, using that, if you look up Bennett Berge, he just won the Freestyle Natty title using those methods. But I would say best exercises for wrestling, I like doing a low hang clean, a low power snatch, a low hang power snatch, 2-box power clean into a full clean. I like doing single leg squats from the front rack single leg squats. I like doing a lot of pull-ups, a lot of rope climbs, a lot of dumbbell presses for these guys. Best exercises for soccer players. This is from William on TikTok. William on TikTok, best exercises for soccer. We just did a video on YouTube all about soccer. But let's just throw in an extra one there. A drop lunge. Drop lunge is a fantastic movement for exercises for soccer. Should I focus on reps on squats or weight on squat to dunk? A question from Nathan Arkwright. Absolutely, JB. Nathan Arkwright, he wants to dunk. So that means he's got to increase his vertical jump. Okay, he's got to increase his vertical jump. He's got to increase his power output. I would say both. And also, if you want to focus on dunking, typically I would also recommend losing a little bit of weight. Okay, usually if you're not super lean, you've got to be lean. We're looking at relative strength when we're talking about dunking. So what that means is pound for pound strength is key. If we're focusing on pound for pound strength, make sure you're as lean as possible. But also, I would have probably 2 days a week that we're going to be focusing on high power output at very, very high speeds, okay? And then 2 days a week where we might push a little bit more load, so getting a little bit heavier, maybe 5 triples, 5 doubles on the back squat. That's going to help you as well. That's really going to improve that. Dynamic trunk control training for races longer than an hour, doing the walrus for 10 meters with, I don't know what with is, but training for races longer than an hour. DTC, what I would do is overhead walking lunges, let's say for a long period of time, 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. That's going to help you quite a bit. I would also do, is 325 power clean good? Yes, that's a good one. Somebody just commented on TikTok, I want the best exercises for real football linebacker. That's like a classic American comment. That's funny. So DTC work for a long duration. So let's say, again, long sets, long time under tension, 1 minute to 2 minutes of overhead positions, 1 minute to 2 minutes of walking lunges with a bar on your back. I even like doing rapid drops with like a kettlebell on a band, and you can drop and then that band sort of bounces the kettlebell around. That's going to help that DTC. I think one misconception that a lot of people have is that we think that we have to train very long duration or very short duration if we want to see that carry over to the long duration, or we want to see it carry over to short duration. And in all reality, it's going to help both ways if you're training short duration and long duration. So I did want to share that with you guys. I'm going to answer Kevin's next question here, but I did want to share, this is a Groove Armada shirt, and I've been trying to share my sweet interest in music. Groove Armada was a group from like the late 90s, mid 2000s. But just go listen today. Let's say Super Stylin'. Listen to Super Stylin' today. You'll get a nice little smile on your face. Is donkey kicking, sorry, Kevin, I'm going to answer your question, but is donkey kicking during cleans bad? I feel like I lift the most weight when I donkey kick. Okay, so we probably lift the most weight when you're donkey kicking because you're not used to not donkey kicking. Okay, so that's one issue of consistency, is that if you're jumping your feet all over the place, you've probably never not done that, so it feels weird when you don't do that. Okay, one way that you can transition out of that is to do no feet cleans or no feet power cleans, and then over time, you'll start to feel a better position without donkey kicking. Some people who are extremely explosive will benefit more from donkey kicking, honestly. I don't think, though, one way that I like to look at it is that if I've got 100 middle schoolers that come into my gym, They're all in 7th and 8th grade, and we got to get them all to the next level. Donkey kicking is not the best for their overall performance long term. Yes, there might be some kids that can do donkey kicking and still be freak athletes, but there's going to be a lot more kids that if you teach them how to slide their feet instead of donkey kicking their feet, that will benefit more. Okay? So it's figuring out which movement patterns will help the largest population possible. Okay? So if I have 100 kids and I need to get them all to the next level, I want to teach them the best way. And if you think about sliding your feet and staying grounded longer, if my feet are grounded longer, I can apply force over a longer period of time. If I ground my feet sooner, I can absorb the force earlier in the catch. Okay, so in theory, I won't have to pull as high because I can get to my catch faster than if I donkey kicked. Okay, so that's sort of where I think. With that being said, there are some people that will be okay doing a donkey kick. There's a woman from Romania, the 49. She just snatched like 92 kilos, set the Euro senior title and senior record in the snatch. And dude, she donkey kicks, but she's got one of the best snatches pound for pound all time on the women's side. So it's for sure it's okay. Kevin asked this question. I thought was an absolutely fantastic question. Have any of your athletes gone through wrist injuries? Would you just sub technical coordination with plyo and or absolute strength work? Kevin, of course, 100%. We've got hundreds of athletes that are coming through here every single year. Hundreds of athletes, and I like that question because I think it's very pertinent. So I'm going to write that down, wrist injuries. And he's asking, if you have a wrist injury and you can't clean or you can't snatch, what do we substitute it with? So the first step that I do is how bad's the injury? If we decrease the load, can you still clean or can you still clean or can you still do snatches? If you still can't do those movements with a decreased load, sometimes people that have those did you know that Jay Vincent's initials are JV? Coincidence? I think not. It's great, Rodolfo. So I think too, it's like a lot of people that have that banged up wrist issue, they can still do like a power snatch or a close grip snatch. Usually they can still do a close grip snatch. So that would be my next step. Okay. If we decrease the load, what happens? If we change a movement to just a close grip snatch, what happens? Can they handle it? If they still have pain, what happens if we just do a high pull or a pull to a target? That's that next aspect that I would look at. If we still have pain, the next step, okay, let's do trap bar jumps. Does that hurt? All right, well, that still hurts. Okay, well, now let's do some absolute strength movements and contrast methods, more plyometric movements. So that's how you sort of troubleshoot through that. And guys, that stuff, like what I just shared with you, that troubleshooting, that's stuff that we're doing in the June 2nd, the June 3rd Coaches Summit. And you guys can sign up at the Coaches Summit at garagestrength.com. We're going to go over all those different facets and answer questions like what Kevin just threw out there, real life scenarios that are going to help you guys take that training to the next level. If you're a coach, it's going to help you really, using the example of 100 different athletes, using that, how do you get all those 100 different athletes to that next level? And that troubleshooting question, that's a real simple walkthrough to try and make sure you're able to continue optimizing your overall performance. Washington, D.C. Wrestling just asked, how do I buy a fat grip that's a 4-foot bar? Our 2-inch fat grip bar, I want to say, is probably 3.5 to 4 feet. That's our Easy Curl bar. I got that fabricated online. Elite FTS sells some fat bars. Getting in contact with a fabricator is big. We've talked about trying to sell them, but I don't know. That might be tough. Any recommendation for clicking shoulders or hips? I think that, and I'm going to answer Kevin Clement's question next, but this is going to be, if you got clicking shoulders and hips, there's probably a little bit of impingement, okay? And what I would do then is try to use a good warm-up so that you get your body temperature up. Walk on some PVC pipes, okay? Do some overhead split squats, do some clamshells or side band walks, and then do some squats that like distraction-based squats, distraction-based presses. Again, if you're using bands in specific manners, that's going to help improve those aspects. and ideally that would get rid of some of the clicking. So I would say that would be my overarching recommendation, would be trying to actually warm up as thoroughly as possible, and then use distraction-based training to improve that. Now, Kevin Clements said, "Hey, Coach, good morning from Miami. This is his question. He's wheelchair bound because of chronic arthritis. After being a member of a local gym for a year, the owner told me I was a risk and can no longer come in." Oh, a risk and can no longer come in. Kevin, I would say that's not usual. If he's using your physical disability, I would say he should change the layout of his gym and try and help you get better. I don't think that's normal. I think that you've got to be able to try and cater to what you want to do, what your goals are. Now, if you were causing issues with hitting on clients or being, obnoxious to a point or something like that, that's a different scenario. But as far as you laid it out, I don't think so. Jess Walton, would you train Highland Games athletics similar to Olympic track and field athletes? For sure. Very similar to throwers, to shot putters and discus throwers, 100%. Sir, I want forearm workout for boxing, sword fighting, and arm wrestling. Can you do that for me? John Alexander, for sure we can do it for you if you pick up a custom program or you go to Peak Strength. Inside of Peak Strength, we do have boxing in there. Now we're going to be adding some of those other arm wrestling eventually. What I would say for forearm stuff, okay, train with fat grips, okay, garage grips, the yellow ones that we're going to be selling shortly. I would try and train with those garage grips. I would try and train a lot of towel work. I would try and train explosive. So we use our power elastic band, our HAF power elastic band, and we hold the handles like this, and we put a kettlebell through it. And I go like, if I have my elbows supported on a dip rack, I go boom, and I rotate out. Boom, rotate out. Boom, rotate out. And what happens is the kettlebell gets explosively moved, and it goes boom, 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 and it bounces, and you got to hold it here, and then you can lower it eccentrically, nice and controlled, explode back up. Okay, so that's like a really, really sweet pronation, supination movement that you can use that is fantastic for that grip work. Keist, why do you use that suicide grip when you bench press in your videos? I don't know. It's funny because I grew up and I did not use suicide grip. I don't even know when I switched over. I don't know if, and I still sometimes will go thumb under, but I think it's mainly maybe because of the fat bar. I don't know. That's a good question though. I don't even know when I switched over on the suicide grip. I do know sometimes I like to do suicide grip for pull-ups because I feel like it helps me get into this position here, which helps my forearm. And if you're a wrestler, you should usually, I do like training suicide on pulls because you can get into that collar tie position a little bit easier. So I don't know. That's a good question, Keist. Let's see. Kevin, did you ever get scared training athletes that are already successful and they're given technical sports? Example, golfers, maybe ruining their technique. What would you do if they come to you? Kevin, this is a great question. I think we sort of answered on yesterday's Instagram, on my own personal Ghostface Instagram, where I was asked about training someone like Jaime Perez, who's already a world champion. She's already an Olympic bronze medalist. How do we deal with that? How do we handle that? And I think what the main aspect is, you've got to listen to the athlete, okay? If they're already elite, be like, okay, what do you need from me? You have to listen. What do you need from me? I want to hear, what does the golfer need from me? The golfer needs this, this, and this. And I want 3 of those aspects. What does the golfer need? Okay, so if the golfer needs these 3 aspects, okay, I can provide that for you. Now, when are you going to be golfing so that we don't inhibit your technical work? Okay, this is how I would lay out a 3-day training week, okay? These are those 3 days that I'm going to set up, and when I set up those 3 days, I want you to give me feedback for this first program. That way, after the feedback from that first program, I can understand the impact that our training is having on your progress out on the links for a golfer. And so it's for sure you've got to be cognizant that resistance-based training, plyometric-based training, jumps, all these things, any type of training, especially inside of the Garage Strength program design that we're doing, could in theory have a negative impact on technique. But if we're actually aware of that and we're focusing on it, Well, then what's going to lead to is like now we're going to be more aware of that, and then we just got to communicate with the athlete. But the most important thing is to listen to what they need. What does the athlete need? What are they telling you? And then adapt your program based along those lines. How do you make a boxer more explosive that is super slow twitch, low power, low jumps, and slow sprints? If I've got an athlete that's slow, okay, and the boxer, the boxer like this, okay, they've got a dead nervous system. What's the easiest thing to do? The easiest thing to do is to try and get their nervous system to be wired like a Ferrari. And that might mean you've got to do a lot more explosive work, okay? They're not good at explosive work. They're also not good at heavy lifts because they're so slow. They don't recruit really well. When you don't recruit well, you tend to be slower. So we've got to train slower movements that are heavy so that they learn how to recruit well. We've got to use contrast methods. We got to do a lot of jumps. We've got to force high levels of recruitment through various patterns so that they can improve as an athlete. Okay, so that would be my answer there. Somebody had a good question. Oh, Washington, D.C. wrestling again. Doing compound movements in wrestling practice after stretching and before drilling decreases injuries by 90%. Roll the bar onto the mat. Keep practice moving. Okay, so he's saying basically do like a power clean at during wrestling practice. So that could almost be like a flow roll too, where you're trying to train somebody for long, slow distance work, 30, 35 minutes of flow rolling. That's interesting. Gotcha. Racing and wrestling. How do I do off-season wrestling and also lift? Gotcha. Racing and wrestling. Again, plug in the Peak Strength app. Head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, Apple iOS Store. Download that. You get 5 free workouts. And then the big thing that I would do, I would just start at 3 days a week of lifting and start at 4 days of off-season wrestling and try to base your really heavy lifts off when you have a day off. Okay, so that's how I would set that up. But also talk to your coach. Say, I want to get really strong. I want to get really, really strong here. That's what we're doing right now with the South Dakota State team. We're focusing on big strength movements, big strength improvements, gaining some muscle mass. But then we also have some athletes that have to stay in a specific weight class. So we got to make sure that they're focusing on their nutrition. Uncle Fester from the Adams family. Tips for a cross-country athlete. What should I do in the weight room? Okay, this is a great one because I think a lot of errors that cross-country athletes make at a low level is that they make the error of we shouldn't be lifting, okay? And I'm going to share a couple different stories. Gary Reed, Matt Lincoln, these are actually 2 Canadian guys. One went to Penn State with me. One trained in Canada where I was at for quite a bit. Gary Reed, world silver medalist, 4th at the Olympics, I believe twice, ran like a 144 in the 8. Matt Lincoln ran like a 146. Dude, these guys could power clean like 215. They were stupid strong. They were extremely fast. And so I think that a lot of cross-country runners, again, this goes back to like Aiden Curley, what's up? I see you down there. I think that's an error that a lot of cross-country runners make is that they avoid heavier lifting or they avoid explosive lifting. And a lot of them will grab dumbbells and they'll do these like running in place in the gym for like a couple different sets. But it's like if they're training abs properly explosively, they're doing snatches or cleans or dumbbell snatches, kettlebell swings, walking lunges, stuff like that. It's going to increase joint integrity. It's going to increase their ability to recruit. And we're going to continuously try and develop their aerobic capacity. But while we're developing their aerobic capacity, we can also increase their alactic capacity so that now when they have to kick or when they have to put out a large amount of power, if they're running up a hill or not running up a hill, if they're just trying to sprint at the end of a race, now they have that reserve that they can pull from. And so we've got to play the game between endurance and strength and know that the strength improvements will help with their structural integrity, probably with injury prevention, but also with performance enhancement, depending upon where their weaknesses are in that specific race that we're working towards. So we've just got to keep that in mind with cross-country runners, and also inform them, like, we're not training them to be bodybuilders. We're going to minimize hypertrophy work, but we still will do hypertrophy work in the knees, in the ankles, and in the hips. That's important. That's all stuff that we got to focus on. Do I review some of the video of lifts on Discord? Not usually. I do not usually do that. I know I will see some of them from Earl, but I don't typically do that. I do think it'd be interesting if at some point in the future we did like a 30-minute video review where I got on either YouTube or YouTube and Discord and went into the group Discord and just talked about technique and stuff like that. I think that could be an added aspect to the community. Is hypertrophy good for fighters? Yes. Hypertrophy is good for fighters. Hypertrophy can also be bad for fighters. It's all dependent upon that periodization and where we're at in training, and you've just got to know when to use more hypertrophy use versus not use hypertrophy. How long did it take for me to get comfortable with PVC pipe walks? The biggest aspect for me for PVC pipe walks was getting comfortable doing it literally all of the time, every single day, and playing around with it. It's just like razor curls right now, Nordic hamstrings. I try to do something and I just beat a dead horse. I'll do it for like all the time. Okay. So PVC pipe walks, I wanted to do it constantly. And I would say it was probably within like 2 weeks I got pretty good at it. Now, I haven't been training jousting on it. I haven't been training balloon volleyball on it. I haven't been doing some of that stuff. So I do think I could improve that. Somebody just asked this question. I caught a lot of flack on this. Hello from France. What's your favorite athlete in any sport that you like? I got so much flack on my personal Instagram because I said that Michael Jordan or LeBron James are probably the best athletes of all time. Everybody was saying Ronaldo, Messi. Dude, those guys are great. I'm not saying they're not great. Even tennis players, Nadal or Federer, all those guys are great. I got crushed because I mentioned Wayne Gretzky. Now, what I would say here is favorite athletes in any sport I like. I really like freestyle wrestling. I really like track and field. I really like American football. I really like just following ice hockey, all these sports, okay? I would say someone that I like, Ryan Krauser is somebody I like in track and field. I think he's absurdly dominant. I like watching Mondo. I like the sprints. Anna Hall is a female on the come up. All those different things. All those different sports. I think for football, I always err on my own guys right now. Nick Singleton, obviously, I'd say he's probably one of my favorites. And you guys should follow me on Instagram because I'm talking about Nick's at home training now. Yeah. Anyway, Muhammad Tyson must be a boxing fan. Since you're Ghostface, what do you think about the new Scream? No idea. I haven't watched Scream probably since I was in high school. Using the Peak Strength app, how can I add running cardio into training on a 4-day-a-week split? Anthony, great question because we are currently developing a program that's going to have this in it. Okay, and so we're going to start peaking, like showing sneak peeks of this new program over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be coming out in about 7 weeks. And so we're going to start showing what I've been doing in my training, adding cardio running, okay? And I typically will go for runs about 2 to 3 days a week. Recently, I have increased my running because I'm trying to increase my caloric burn. We're doing a photo shoot on Friday at 7 a.m., so I've been trying to lose some weight and get down to like 216, 217 to be really shredded for this photo shoot. So I've been running a little bit more. Yeah, this is for the artist part of Wu-Tang Clan. That's right. Which I believe the best album personally from Ghostface is Apollo Kids is the best album, not song title, album. And the best song on that for me personally is Ghetto, if you guys are interested. Anyway, going back to that question. Yeah, just trying to get ripped, doing the cardio work 2 to 3 days a week. And so with cardio and lifting, I think it's important that you still have one day that you still push your lifts really heavy. I will usually lift really heavy on a Sunday. I go for my really long run actually on Saturday morning. Usually I take off from running twice during the week right now and do all that. Steve Wonderland, another channel member. So guys, if you're interested in doing our YouTube channel, where our YouTube membership, You can sign up at the YouTube membership. It's $10. You get access to me for an hour 4 times a month, and it's $10. So Steve just asked, do you have to reach out to PSU strength coach for Nick, or do they just let you do what you have been doing? So I'll say this. I talked with Chuck Losey quite a bit. I talked with James Franklin, the head football coach at Penn State, quite a bit. Talked to him yesterday, actually, about Nicholas, about Javen, about Joey, and just getting them in the gym. And even Sam I actually have to message about as well. So I'll talk to Losey here and there, not a lot, but probably like once a quarter. I talk with Franklin quite a bit, and just when they come in, just knowing that what I have for them is mainly just trying to supplement what the Penn State guys are doing. That's just, that they have them all the time, and that's just got to be the main focus. Thoughts on frequency as in 2 by 30 minutes versus 1 by 60 minutes. Oh, 2 by 30 minutes is fantastic. 2 by 30 minutes. There's actually even some research out there that'll say that, 3 15-minute jogs is better for longevity or health than 1 45-minute jog. I don't think it really matters that much, but I do think it's perfectly fine to cut that up a little bit more. I think that's absolutely fine. I'm going to write down some of this. Frequency of cardio. I'm going to put some of this because I think these are some really good questions, guys, that we can answer out over on Peak Strength on the Peak Strength YouTube channel, because Peak Strength's YouTube channel, we're going to get into some real nitty-gritty stuff. And the frequency of cardio with lifting, that's a freaking awesome question. So I'm going to say we're going to do something like that. Okay, this is a really good question here from Jess Walton. And I really, really want to address this. Actually, Benjamin, would you consider programming Nordic Curls for male gymnasts that do all of the events? Yes. Mainly, I would program 2 things. Male gymnasts are always in this crazy posterior tilt. Always have knee issues because of how wild their landing is. So we've got to do Nordics, razor curls, explosive work, targeting glutes, targeting posterior chain to make sure they're hitting those co-contractions in that knee joint for sure. Absolutely. Just purchased the single leg squat and pad to donate to my local Villa Sport because I see all of us using whatever we can to throw our leg up on. Can't wait to use it. Absolutely. Jay Mill, thank you so much. You guys can head over to garagestrength.com and pick up that single leg pad. Actually, before I get into Jess's question, Jess asked a question about Saquon Barkley. I wanted to show you this. So this is what we're looking at. Somebody like Nicholas, okay? And this is what Nick did yesterday in training, and I really, really wanted to share this as a and I don't know why this is not showing up. Okay, so this is a video of Nick here. You guys can see this. So this is 140 kilos, so about 315 around. And he hasn't done single leg squats in a bit. So comes in, he actually hit 150, which is 330. Just look at the speed on this. And a lot of people will ask, like, well, is single leg squatting that important? Yes, especially if you're a football player, especially if you're a wrestler, especially if you're a swimmer, especially if you're a basketball player, especially if you're a shot putter. Like, literally, you're in that unilateral position all the time. Now, here's one big aspect, okay? One big aspect is that if we have a long front foot, okay, and we've got that chest forward lean, okay, chest forward lean, long front foot, we know that there's a lot of growth in the glutes when the glutes are really lengthened. We know maximal contraction of the glutes will occur at hip extension, but maximal strength and hypertrophy will occur at full lengthening. And that's where that single leg squat comes into play, with the front leg being more forward and a little bit more of that forward lean. That's where acceleration comes into play. That's where we're going to transfer. That single leg squat will transfer to the field because of the way that the torso is leaning, because of the way we're lighting up the glutes. And this is stuff that goes a very, very long way as far as acceleration, patterning, and things along those lines are set up. So that's why we use the single leg squats all of the time. Now, going back to Jess Walton's question, she had asked, what about Saquon Barkley? Was he just a freak? And I don't think that Jess is asking this. Was was just asking, is Saquon just a freak athlete? I think it's really important to recognize. Let's use someone like Saquon. Okay, he really only got recruited by Rutgers, and then he committed to Rutgers, decommitted from Rutgers because Penn State started to show some interest. Came back, went to Penn State. Okay, when he was in high school, for sure he's a freak. I think he medaled at states in the hurdles. I want to say, obviously all-state football player, freak of nature for sure. But I think that some stuff that we've got to remember with these athletes is that there's a lot of freaks out there that are not trained. And someone like Nicholas, like this is a good example, and this is the same thing with Saquon. He didn't just clean 405 pounds when he was 21 years old by being a freak. That's not possible. You have to work. And the difference with someone like Saquon is that he did all of the crazy work all of the time. Okay, Journey Brown's another one that Penn State had. And I know just talking with Losi, talking with Jaywan Sider, talking with Franklin, and talking even about, Micah Parsons. These guys did the work. So you have to be a freak to be at that level, but you've got to also show up 4 or 5 days a week. Nicholas, as an example, Nick's a freak. He just came in yesterday and single leg squatted 150 kilos for a triple, unbroken. Boom, 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 boom. But why was he doing that? Why? This is a kid who, there's other kids on the football team at Penn State that aren't going into training. They're not showing up. They're not doing this on their break. They're released from the football team for 2 straight weeks, and they can go home and do nothing. And Nick shows up, wants to train. He's a freak, more so up here. And that's the stuff we got to remember especially with football, is like these guys have to do their work. They have to train. They also have to understand how to pick up blitzes. They also have to understand how to catch a ball when there's a lot of pressure on them. Someone's about to decleat them and they're catching the ball. So all those things come into play, and we just got to remember that. I think it's easy to watch on TV and not factor those things into sport development. So that's just something. And Jess, I'm not. I just wanted to share that. That's my thought. Got You Racing just asked, what are my top 5 movies? I'm trying to read some of these other questions. There's a lot of questions going in that YouTube live. Wow. Consistency will give you the world. I'm trying to see beat foot. Yes. I don't mind barefoot stuff. Treadmills, I actually like treadmills. I think one of the coolest parts around treadmills is that you can go on them you can hold a pace very easily, and you can get your heart rate to a certain level and hold it very, very easily. I think treadmills are effective. I also think that some people overuse them. That would be my answer. My top 5 favorite movies. What about frequency of strength training while running 6 times per week? I would just do 2 to 3 days of strength training, 1 leg day, 1 upper body day, 1 trunk and plyometric day if we're training 3 days a week or 6 days a week of distance running. Weber Family Entertainment. I'm trying to look at some of these other questions because it looks like there's like a full-blown Muhammad Tyson, best fighter. I worked with Carmelo Marrero. He fought in UFC. Actually beat Czech Congo. Got beat by Gabe Gonzaga. This is back in the day. Haven't worked with any recently. Good evening, Dane. Are calves actually beneficial for athletics? Some say it's useful. Yeah, I think they're beneficial. Calves are beneficial for athletics, absolutely. But I think it's a difference between, like, should we train them explosively? Should we train them isolating them for bodybuilding? It depends on the person, depends on their goal. Ironic story I want to share with you is Nick would always ask me, why are my calves so small? I want to get bigger calves. So absolutely, Jess. Yeah, for sure. Athleticism is something you don't see in everyone is simply what I meant. For sure. I do believe that to a point, and then they just cultivated that. And that's what I think, take this. A lot of people will say, what does cultivate your power mean? We always say that at the end of our YouTube videos, cultivate your power, peace, right? We always say that. What does that mean? That means you take someone, this is a great way to think about it. Someone like Saquon Barkley, who is one of the best, this past year looked great in the NFL, right? Had a phenomenal year. Someone like Saquon has this very, very high level of capability. But had he not trained, you would have no one would know who Saquon Barkley is. So you have to pull that out of yourself, and that is cultivation. That's working on your internal self. That's working through, not to get too metaphysical, that's working through your own internal desire and your own internal work ethic and your own internal ability, mental, physical, spiritual, whatever you want to say, okay? So Saquon worked on that. He cultivated his power, pulled it out of himself, and now we can see it on display at the NFL level. This is similar, with Nicholas. Then there's other Nicks out there that don't cultivate their power. Okay, so that's what that really does mean. I want to finish with the 5 movies, but I'll answer. I'm going to write this down. I want to answer some of these other things. 3 days a week, strength training, and other 3 days, plyometric ballistic. Is that all right? I would just do 2 days of ballistic stuff. On your distance athletes, how many days do you have them run? I would run, it depends on the distance that they're at, anywhere probably 3 to 5 days a week. And then what is a good split for half marathon training? I think training 4 days a week of actual road work, and that could also include sprints, hill sprints, interval-based training, and then 3 days of lifting. Some of those days you're gonna train and run. Okay. Do I have need to go through a knee strengthening phase as a basketball player? Yes. Sawyer Fike, 100%. You need to train. You got to go through a knee strengthening phase as you termed it. I would just say focus on, that would be more of like the exposure phase inside of the Peak Strength app. Exposure phase is going to be absolutely pivotal there. Yeah. So I want to go back to, sorry, Sawyer, I just answered that. Yeah. 3 days a week. There's a lot of good questions in here. Yeah. So I think that the big aspect there is, okay, somebody just commented on TikTok. How many times should you do sled work a week? I think hitting a sled, you could go anywhere from 2 to 5 times a week. Now, the only thing is, from what I've noticed personally, this is an anecdotal thing on my end, is that I've seen that if I hit a long sled session, like 15 to 20 minutes, the next day my running feels like trash. I've also liked to use it 2 to 5 minutes to warm up before I start to pull heavy, though. So it's really dependent. Just being aware of how that feels, I think, is a big factor. Will you make a garage strength shop for Europe for stuff like the single leg roller? Keist, to do that, we're going to have to figure out a fulfillment shop or a fulfillment location in Europe. We're not at that level yet, but at some point we want to get there. That's stuff that we want to work towards. Okay, my 5 favorite movies. That's a tough one. Okay, I think I have an idea, and you guys are probably going to make fun of a lot of them. Let's look at. I'm going to write some down. I almost want to. I want to almost take like any thoughts, any predictions. I've got 3 off the top of my head. I've got to try and think of 2 more, because this is my other downfall, is that I try to watch movies and I see movies that I really, really enjoy, but when I'm like halfway through a movie, I just struggle to stay focused on it. I want to go do something. Rocky 4 growing up, my brother, my sister, and I used to sit in the basement and just scream and go nuts. Rocky 4 was a phenomenal movie for me. I wouldn't say it's the best movie, but it's just one of those that you've like gotta enjoy. Hey, Dane from Germany, what's the best exercise in your opinion on how to improve fighters keeping their hands up? Ooh, that's a tough one. So hands up, okay, when I'm here, shoulders, biceps, a little bit of lats, okay, pecs even, and abs. So how are we going to keep those abs flexed? How are we going to keep them here? A lot of that factors into your endurance training. A lot of that factors into how much sparring are you doing? How much slow distance stuff are you doing? And I would even change how you're running if you're a fighter, and just doing like long slow distance with those hands elevated for that long period of time. That's what I would recommend. No Country for Old Men, phenomenal movie. Phenomenal movie. Jess actually asked another question, thoughts on Litvinov workout. Ironically, an individual stole the Litvinov workout, and it is not technically done by Litvinov, and I cannot name names because I have had something filed against me by said individual in a national governing body, so I can't go full into depth on that one. Okay, I'm going to give you my first 3, and you guys are all going to laugh and make fun of me. My first favorite one is The Right Stuff, okay? And I would say just out of top 5, I'm not ranking them as the number 1. The Right Stuff is a movie about getting into space and also at the same time breaking the sound barrier. And one of my all-time like childhood heroes is a guy named Chuck Yeager. He's the first dude to break the sound barrier. Chuck Yeager is in that. They highlight him. They also highlight like the early Mercury group of astronauts. I love Chuck Yeager. I love everything that he was about. He's a total badass. And so The Right Stuff was just a movie for me that I thought was incredible. And it was a book actually written by Tom Wolfe, who also wrote another book that's one of my favorites, The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, which followed around Ken Kesey and a bunch of other guys back in the 60s and 70s. So, yeah. Okay, next one. A comedy, a horrible comedy about the Cold War. Spies Like Us, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase. Loved it. Absurdly ridiculous, but I love the movie. I think it's hysterical. It's one of those movies that I don't know. I just think it's funny. Here's another one. Star Trek. Number 2, The Wrath of Khan. Okay, The Wrath of Khan, the second Star Trek. I believe, and so this movie I know is based around some of the evidence that some of the stuff has like Egyptian mythology and stuff like that. Absolutely love it. There's a lot of philosophy in it as well. So those would be 3 of my top 5. I'll come back next week with 2 more. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's live stream. Remember, if you guys want to be active and try to get that swole shirt that we shared, that Shane Goff 235 one. You've got to comment on our YouTube lives, and you've got to have all notifications active, and then you've got to show up to the Tuesday live chat. We're going to be going live on YouTube every single Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern. We're also live on TikTok and Instagram. And remember, if you guys need help with your programming, you need help with any of those things that are going to help you get to that next level, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store. You can download Peak Strength for 7 free days of training. And during those 7 free days, you can cancel at any time. But the worst thing that's going to happen, you're going to get 5 free workouts. At some point, you guys have to begin that journey to attain peak strength. Keep putting in those comments. Some of these questions were absolutely phenomenal, and I think it's going to be great for us developing some of that stuff even on our other channel, Peak Strength. Until next time, peace.